Hey folks, this is Rainiac, bringing you week 5 of the SongsByPeopleSexy.net forums Let's Play Springfest competition. And after the last 2 weeks pairing me up with the Conradical DecoyOctopus, this week sees me going solo again with a doozy of a game. It's M.U.S.H.A for the Sega Genesis, released in 1990 by Compile, M.U.S.H.A standing for Metallic Uniframe Super Hybrid Armor, as you can see written on the screen there. And I'm afraid, right off the bat, I have to commit that most cardinal of LP sins, loading a save state on camera. Before you all heckle me and throw things, I must point out that this is what was required for this week's challenge. We had to load a save state which gave us hard mode with 3 lives. This is M.U.S.H.A, as I've said, and as you can see, it's a top-down shoot-'em-up, more affectionately known as a SHMUP. And I have a bit of a confession to make. Continuing the trend from recent weeks, I had never heard of M.U.S.H.A before. It turns out it was made by Compile, and it turns out that they actually made the Puyo Puyo series, as well as the series that this game comes from, the Aleste series, which I'd also never heard of. And I had to make a bit of a confession. Not only have I never heard of M.U.S.H.A nor its related series, but I'm also not much of a player of this type of game. In fact, I can probably count on one hand the number of top-down shmups I've actually played. And all of them I didn't do very well on. I think the last one I played was the arcade game 1942, and that didn't end well at all. But honestly, for someone that isn't really into this style of gameplay, I think I did alright. Of course, you can judge for yourselves once we get to the end of the video. So let's talk a little bit about the gameplay then. You fire your basic gun with the C button, and use the A button to switch the mode of your little side cannons here. Now there are various different modes that you can lock your side cannons into for more variety in the gameplay. But for the majority of this video, in fact for all this video, I just had them permanently locked in the 3-way stance. And if anyone makes a "that's what she said" joke, they're getting punched in the kidney. But the real magic of this game is the B button, because the B button fires your special weapon, and we've seen them all before. There are 3 different types of special weapon. We have the fire power-up, which allows you to shoot missiles, which are useful for sort of spreading across the screen, but I don't necessarily think it's that useful. We have the power-up that I've just flown past, which is the water power-up. This is much more useful. This gives you a rotating shield, which protects you from enemy bullets, but it doesn't make you invincible. And then we have my personal favourite, the thunder power-up, which gives you this green beam of death shooting out the side of your machine. And my basic strategy for this game was basically to get the thunder beam, keep the thunder beam, and then just keep moving left and right, spraying the screen with bullet and beam death. That's a very eloquent way of putting it, I know, but that's pretty much the only strategy I adopted that seemed to work. Now the clever thing about this game is you can actually level up your power-ups by collecting 2 of the same power icon in a row. As you can see, we're currently rocking the level 2 thunder beam here. Level 0 thunder beam, which is what you start with, was just a weak little beam that shot out the front of your machine. And the level 1 thunder beam was 2 thin beams, which was a lot more useful. We're now with level 2, which is a big old thick beam of thunder. And we're just about to get to level 3 here, which is the same as level 1, but a lot thicker and a lot more deadlier. Now you may have noticed these little floating canisters that release what I like to call mystical soda cans, because they have Japanese kanji written on the front. If you collect enough of these soda cans, you actually get yourselves a side cannon. Now you can only have 2 side cannons on the screen at once, but you might notice in the top right hand corner of the screen there's a 4 right next to my live icon, which is currently showing at 3. And that's because if you actually collect a lot more of the soda cans than just the 2 you've got on the screen, you can actually build up a reserve, so every time one of your guns is destroyed, another one appears to take its place. And straight away we have a mini-boss, and we're only like 3 minutes into the game. And this thing is very easy once you know what you have to do. You have to shoot these orbs down. There are 6 orbs in total, and if you have side cannons, you can just go in the middle, and the side cannons will do most of the hard work for you. However, in true Conradical fashion, I broke out the thunder beam and utterly wrecked the temple tank, I think that's what it's supposed to be, on the right here, and then the second one went down to my side cannons. Now this week's achievements are rather interesting. 2 of them are gameplay related, and I'll get to them once we actually get to them. But the third one is most interesting of all. Zenny, our glorious contest overlord, is a bit concerned that we've been holding back on our opinions for the past 4 weeks. And so he's invited us for 2 points, a whole 2 points, I know, isn't that generous, to really tell him how we feel about both this game and the contest in general. So my complaints about M.U.S.H.A, although it is a pretty rad game, it seems to suffer from the same disease that most of these top-down shmups seem to suffer from. And I know I'm not the best person to judge because I've already said I don't really play these. Also, we have our first boss here, so I'll get back to my complaints in a second. A mystical pagoda tank with 6 turrets that you have to destroy. Now, the bottom turrets are kind of dangerous, but they're also the easiest to take care of. And once you've got rid of them, this is very, very easy. In fact, you can take out the second tier of turrets just by standing still and avoiding the fireballs that the top turret shoots out. Then you just got to basically take pot shots at the turret while moving out of the way of his fireballs. I lost my power up early on here, but this is really quite an easy boss once you get to know how to beat it. Its second form here is the skull on top of the tank, and all you've got to do here is it will shoot fireballs, and all you've got to do to avoid them is move left and right while constantly firing at him. That's really all there is to it. When I first played through this game for my practice runs, this boss really killed me a lot. But I was just being stupid, because as long as you keep moving and you don't go in the corners, this guy can't possibly ever hit you. Of course, the more you play through a game, the more practice you become at it, and the better you become at it. But I was still embarrassed that he managed to kill me so easily on my first few runs. And with the boss dead, we've actually achieved our first 2 achievements for this week. That is, you had to kill a boss without dying, which I've just done, and you had to get to the end of a stage without game overing, which I've also just done. Now, stage 2 is rather interesting. It's actually quite short, and you actually go inside the pagoda tank that you've just destroyed. And we have to destroy the power chamber. Well, that's what it says that our mission is, but actually, we won't be destroying any power chamber, just a little bit of a spoiler alert there. Now, we have the level 3 missiles here, and we're about to get the most ridiculous power up of the entire game, the level 4 missiles, because now, apparently, that gives us the ability to shoot black holes. Now, it might look very cool, and trust me, it does an absolute ton of damage to everything on the screen. Those little silver robots, they actually didn't even get a chance to make an appearance before I destroyed them. But this power-up is actually more of a hindrance than it is a help, because those black holes, while they may look fancy and they do a ton of damage, they actually block out what I'm seeing on the screen. And one of my major complaints about M.U.S.H.A, and indeed most top-down shmups, is that there's just too much crap on the screen to deal with at once. At certain points during this, I couldn't tell whether it was my shots that were on the screen or the enemies. I know that the common sort of consensus of shmups is that if 70% of the screen can't damage you, they're doing it wrong, but that was just kind of ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, I completely wrecked that mini-boss there. It's a big head that shoots junk at you, but I killed it before it even had a chance to complete its first cycle. I almost felt sorry for him. Except not really. So yeah, M.U.S.H.A does seem to suffer from the same disease as most shmups do. But I also have a couple of complaints about the contest itself. Now, I'm kind of wary of airing these grievances live on air here, because I kind of don't want to bite the hand that feeds, but you know what, he's encouraged me to be honest, so I'll just go ahead and say it. Those of you that are following the contest might know that at certain points there are opportunities to gain bonus points, and I'm not referring to the achievements, because I think the achievements are an awesome idea that have really made this a much more interesting contest this time round. No, I'm referring to other bonus points. At certain times in the contest, certain participants have received what have been called judge points. Now, I'm not entirely sure on the specifics of this, but I think a judge point is if a certain judge that's nominated for that week finds that video the best personally for them, and that participant gets an extra point. But there are other such points. For example, in week 3 there was a raffle, and this is what I talked about, biting the hand that feeds somewhat, because I actually won the raffle, and my choice was either PSN, Xbox Live, or Wii points, or a bonus point in the contest. And because I don't have a PS3, an Xbox 360, or a Wii, I took the bonus point. And I kind of felt bad for doing so, but I really kind of had no choice, because as I said, I don't have any of the current gen consoles, so taking Wii points would have been absolutely pointless. But I just wonder if these bonus points are making the contest too dependent on luck. And also, my great concern is that at some point someone's just going to get so high in the lead because of these bonus points, and they won't be able to be caught, and that's the contest over. I don't want to come across as a whiny little, ungrateful little bitch, but that's just my honest opinion. Don't get me wrong, I think Zenny's doing a fantastic job. That's just something I think could be improved upon for future contests. And now we have our second boss here, which certainly is no power core. It's a demonic baby-looking thing with flamethrowers and front-mounted cannons, and you kill it just the same way you do in the pagoda attack. I know it looks completely different, but all you got to do is just keep moving back and forth, firing, and the thing goes down about 20 seconds flat. I actually found that boss easier than the first one, although again in my practice runs, it didn't end well. It killed me more times than I care to admit to. And now we're in stage 3, and this is where the game really gets kind of ridiculous with the amount of enemies it throws on the screen. We start off in what looks like a metallic floor, hovering above a metallic floor, shooting at this robotic demon, which is the only way I could possibly think to mention it. Also, you'll notice that because I took a hit on the second boss, I actually lost my level 4, but fortunately we got the level 4 water shield, and its special ability here is it allows you to shoot projectiles, which is actually useful. Usually when you have the shield you only have your normal guns to rely on, but here you've got special projectiles. Now the robotic demon, or whatever the hell it is, blows up and backs off, and here we get to see what M.U.S.H.A is really capable of in the graphics department. These tiles fall down into the lava below, so it turns out we're actually hovering above a volcano this entire time, and I really love those little splashes of fire that are given off by the tiles once they fall in. And I also like that when you destroy certain enemies in this section here, they will actually fall down into the lava. It's only a little thing, but in my opinion it's the little things that really make games worth playing. It's a nice little touch, and Compile should be applauded for this. Having said that, this entire level, and this segment in particular, is just about as ridiculous as you can get. And I have the black hole missiles here, which makes seeing things even more tricky. And in a minute, we're about to get to perhaps the most ridiculous part of the entire level, which you are going to want the water shield for, just giving you a little FYI there. Once you've got through this swarm of apparently non-stop enemies, the screen speeds up right here, and you have to fly through tiny little passages in the rock. And believe me, this is just about as tricky as it looks, which is to say, very tricky indeed. Now the trick that I can see to this is that you want to try and stay on the sides of the screen rather than the front, because if you go in the front of the screen, there's the danger there'll be a rock right in the middle and you'll plough straight into it and lose a life. If you do get smacked into one of these rock things, I believe if you have level 4 you will just go revert to level 3, but if you fall into another one, that's when you'll die. Fortunately, once the enemies show up again, that means that that little segment is over. But here, make sure you've got all the firepower you can muster, because if you will let too many things on the screen at once here, you are going to die. The screen is just going to fill with so much crap in the way of enemy shots and enemies, and these goddamn demon heads that look like that from Doom and remind me of the Caco demons from Doom 1 that gave me so much trouble when I was playing that game, and the less said about that the better. I also have to point out, some of these enemies in M.U.S.H.A are just plain weird. I mean, robotic flying elephant fairies? Demonic heads? Bomb mosquitoes? And that's not even counting some of the crazy stuff that happened in level 2, my goodness. M.U.S.H.A is more like Ripley's Believe It or Not when it comes to video games. My god. Also, I must point out that I do love the Thunder Beam here, but the other way to go for the boss is the Water Shield, as much as I hate to admit it. But the thing I love about the Thunder Beam is once you've got it to level 4, it's like Geese Howard, you cannot escape wrong death. Also, the side cannons here like to go in the walls, and if they touch the rock just even briefly, they will blow up. Our boss here is a robotic demonic heart with 2 faces on it. Really don't know how the hell to describe this, and unfortunately I lost the shield completely unintentionally and had to go in it with the Thunder Beam. Now he looks like he's dead here, but he's not, because he has a second form. Or even a form, I don't know what a form is. This little robotic impish demon, which is quite similar to the guy you fought right at the beginning of the level, and so we come full circle, and I lost my power up here, and this made the ending of this fight so dramatic, because I was determined to try and beat this game in the 15 minutes with a no-death run. You know, just to see if I could do it, and I just did it, and I could have sworn he'd hit me there and I died, but fortunately he didn't, and I blew up. Or he blew up, I should say. So that was very, very fortunate. It wouldn't be very fortunate if mine blown up, it would have been terrible. And my 15 minutes is just about coming to an end, and that was M.U.S.H.A. And that's a pretty neat game, as I said, you should all try it out, although it is particularly rare. And as you can see, you can actually control your speed here, if you pause the game. But that's going to do it for this game. Join me next week for another game, week 6. Until then, bye for now.